Where your treasure is, there your heart will be. I admit I hear this verse slightly differently now that I have officially morphed into a Floridian. Because the first thing that comes to mind when I hear about treasure is pirates and buried treasure and treasure maps with a big X marking the spot. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Arg. But swashbuckling aside, it's interesting because so often I think we hear this verse in reverse. That where our heart is, that's where our treasure will be. Which suggests that we will spend our money on things we love. But that's not what it says. Jesus tells us that if you look at where you spend your money, if you start with the treasure, that's what matters most to you, which is a pretty revealing and in some cases convicting exercise. Think about it this way. What would it look like if rather than the IRS, God gave you a financial audit? If it's true what Jesus says, that how you spend your money reveals where your heart and what your heart both desires and values, what would God see in your receipts? What would it reveal about your heart, your life, your soul? If you're anything like me, it would reveal some things you're not particularly proud of. Or it might indicate that some of the priorities you claim to have, or think you have, or that you want to project to the world don't exactly line up when it comes to the bottom line. The good news is God won't have you arrested on charges of divine tax evasion or whatever that would be called. But laying it bare, and remember the God to whom all hearts are open, all desires known, and from whom no secrets are hid, already knows how you spend your money. But by laying it all out there, would it cause you to change some of the ways you spend your money or the choices you make? Now, Jesus knows this is incredibly hard for us. There's a reason Jesus talks about money more than the right use of money, really, more than just about any other topic. He knows we struggle with it. He knows we're seduced by it. He knows we turn it into an idol. And he knows just how much anxiety it causes us. But he talks about it all the time, and not because he's trying to raise money for, I don't know, a new lighting system, but because he's trying to break money's powerful hold over us. He wants us to experience the freedom of generosity rather than remaining in the grip of greed, which he knows is just so soul-sucking rather than life-affirming. But there's also a reason it makes us uncomfortable every time Jesus or the preacher starts talking about money. And by the way, this is not some fundraising pitch, just so you know. I'm just talking about what Jesus is talking about, so just to be clear. Because our relationship to money is just so complicated. We spend an inordinate amount of time and energy making it, spending it, saving it, worrying we don't have enough of it, and not nearly enough time and energy sharing it, giving it away, making a difference with it. It's no surprise that the other verse that we so often get wrong is money is the root of all evil. Again, that's not what it says. In 1 Timothy, we hear that the love of money is the root of all evil. Why? Because when we chase after money above all else, we often find ourselves wandering away from God. We turn money itself into a god. And that's just not good for the spiritual well-being of our souls. Now, don't get me wrong, money has the power to do an inordinate amount of good in the world. When it comes to church, I often refer to money as rocket fuel for ministry. It allows us to deepen devotion and transform lives. But the love of money so often prevents us from using it in the service of others. And that's the spiritual trap Jesus so desperately wants us to avoid. I recently heard someone talk about the concept of planned obsolescence. This was the brainchild of one of the early chairmen of General Motors, Alfred P. Sloan. In the 1920s, the automotive industry was still in its infancy, and after a big boom, sales had started to lag. Basically, all the people who could afford to buy cars had already bought one. So Sloan came up with this radical marketing idea of planned obsolescence. GM would convince their customers that buying one car in their lifetime was not nearly enough. That in order to remain current and fashionable, they'd have to keep buying newer and newer models. So the theory was that you buy a new car not because your car stops working or because the transmission falls out. You buy a new car because the one you have is old, because a new, shinier, and slightly improved model has come out. And so at the GM dealership, after you purchased your new car, when the salesman handed you the keys to a brand new Chevrolet, he would also give you a brochure touting the new model that hadn't yet come out. So amid all the excitement and joy of driving your brand new car off the lot for the very first time, your enthusiasm was tempered by the fact that as wonderful as that new car smell is, something was coming soon that would be even better. Something you didn't actually need, but something you didn't have. And this explains so much about our modern society. The consumerism, the fear of missing out, the keeping up with the Joneses, the dissatisfaction with what you have, no matter how much you have. It's why we crave the new iPhone, even though the one we have is still working pretty darn well. And this is what Jesus is holding up for us. An opportunity to get off that economic treadmill that drives us to seek more and more beyond what we even need or want. To be satisfied and grateful for what we have, to live in the present, to set aside anxiety, to embrace peace and joy, to give thanks for the blessings that we have, to stop the relentless pursuit of products or possessions we believe will satisfy some deep yearning, but that always disappoints. We don't have to live this way. True fulfillment comes only through faith in Jesus Christ. If there's an emptiness in your heart, filling it up with more and more treasure will never satisfy that deep spiritual longing in your soul. It doesn't come through a new Cadillac or an impulse buy on Amazon. Our heart rejoices. Our heart is satisfied. Our heart is full when we put our trust in Jesus. Everything else falls short. Jesus knows this, which is why he is always inviting us into deeper and deeper relationship with him, always seeking to draw our hearts away from the things which distract and debase, and always seeking to draw our hearts towards his very own heart, a place of abundant love and joy and peace. Where your treasure is, your heart will be.